All right, guys. Hope everyone had a good weekend. It is Sunday, right around 2 o'clock a.m. Just wanted to go ahead and put this out there for, I guess, technically the weekly scan. Pretty much a lot of my focus is still around SPY, still around AMD, still around NVIDIA, and taking a look at like Meta from the sidelines. I think Meta's probably the hardest one to be able to capture. Still bearish overall. January's, I still have 8 contracts. I still have more on AMD, so AMD is the higher sized. I shouldn't say higher position, right? I have more money technically in SPY because those contracts are more expensive, but I have more contracts in AMD. But I have a lot more opportunity to add into AMD since the contracts are a lot cheaper. We are getting close to the expiration, however, right? We have till August 15th, and then their earnings report, which is what I want to hold it to, is August 5th, right? So I want to have as much cash on hand to be able to add into this if needed. With my stops tentatively around 162, it's nice that this pushed all the way up to 162. I mentioned this the week prior. I'll show you guys why I have that level. But really, I want to see this cross below this 153 marker right around here, okay? And then from there, this should be a pretty easy move down back into these old highs at 147.57. I think we can, I don't want to say safely remove this 145 spot. I'll show you the relevance of this. Technically, it's just this gap up from 714 to 715. But all in all, I think this can really become a nice, solid, I shouldn't say entry point, but kind of an additional add into our entry once we cross below this 153 threshold. This is a simple progression gap system. I always talk about this, okay? So this breach, this gap fill at 153, and this should be trading to this level up here at 166 to fill that gap. However, we had an inverted hammer, right, or a shooting star, where I believe a lot of the bears that were in this spot here capitulated, right? So we technically saw the change of hands and the potential for a distribution to now begin. We saw an overcut of 1 day, 2 days, and then those days were all on low volume. We didn't see continued high volume or increasing volume through to kind of signify that we were going to get a continuation of that. And instead, we also have red candles, right? We also have selling days or selling pressure at those highs with buyer exhaustion. So this should give us a pullback. It just kind of comes down to what happens at 153. As I said, I just want to see 153 break, and then we get some kind of retest. We want to see, and I'll be using level 2 on this as well, looking at the passive orders. If we can breach underneath 153 and then we see 153 then turn into an ask side, right, where we have sell orders placed at the ask at a certain level, whether it's 153 flat, 153.12, 153.50. We just want to see orders being consecutively stacked there that are preventing price from being pushed above. I would be comfortable taking a position and then, risking. I still think 162, but we can obviously trail if needed. I know time is of the essence now, so we can trail that as needed, but ideally we don't get back above 153.12, maybe 153.50, or maybe even, we can maybe, it's hard to tell before price action opens up, I'll be completely honest, but we just want to see an SR flip here, and we can kind of read and react based off how high it goes. If the volume's lower as it's breaking back above 153.12, we can just eyeball it. But we want to see some kind of general rejection off of that, a break back down into this 147.75, or a move into this this gap fill here that I talked about from 714 at 145.87. As always, right at these gaps, you could expect a bounce. Lately with the market, I will say these bounces have been giving new highs, right? It's just kind of unfortunate and just how it's been. We've been getting stuff like this where it just kind of does a full recovery and then it rips. All in all, we should be somewhat green if we can get this down into 145.87, maybe like 20%, 15%, as long as we can get a majority of our ads at 153. So I will be going heavy if we can break under 153.12 and then retest that. I'll be getting in with a lot more size to try to get this green down into 145. I will read and react off of 145, but hey, if I'm up like 25, 30%, I probably trim half and then kind of let the rest run and trail stop it if needed. But if we get some kind of weak bounce, I'm willing to kind of hold it and then see if we can get the follow through for a move underneath 141, right? We talked about this spot for a couple days. Once again, a progression gap where we had a gap down from here. We consolidated for a few days, we undercut it slightly, and then we rallied and gapped above. Um, Normally, this would give this area an opportunity at 138.77 to act as support, where we would typically trade to the top of this. We would reject it, absorb sell orders, and then get like a pullback like this, right? Just to visually see it, we'd get something like that, and then we'd go. Instead, we gapped up. We consolidated for 3 days here, with all 3 days coming directly to 141.9 as support. So clearly a support level here, and an area that I'm looking for it to trade to. And once again, I would expect either a bounce off of this, or maybe it breaks under on the first try, which would be amazing, and then it retests it from below. If we can get some kind of bid flip where this now becomes a sell side order or sell side ask here, similar to what I was talking about up here on this retest, this would be fantastic, right? And that would be pretty much confirmation that we're going to trade to 138. But all in all, kind of the stair-step fashion that I'm looking for. I do expect a couple bounces to happen, but earnings could obviously expedite this. And we have, 10, 25 days, roughly 25 days until expiration. So we do have some time. We just have to be very smart with our ads here. And this name has, if you guys pay attention to beta, if the market were to pull back, this name, with its rally that it's seen in relation to its beta, this name can definitely have, I would say, an outsized move. So if Qs move 2%, I could see this going 4%. If Qs go 4%, I can see this going 6%. I think beta is about 2. So this would move a lot more aggressively than the broader market. And yeah, I just think that this name can move very well. I've been continually seeing PT upgrades. I don't know if you guys pay attention to them. They're not a huge part of my trading process, but I always pay attention to whether we're in potential accumulation or distribution schematics, and then I pay attention to like any upgrades that I see. If you guys remember the old shop chart, I might need to extend this out just a little bit, but shop should always come to mind. If you guys remember that, it was a fantastic example. Let's go back like 2 years maybe. Shop. Oh, was it here? Oh yeah, it was back here. If you guys remember this, I still have it charted. Remember we broke above the progression gap, so technically the open was here. Okay, we were chopping around 63, 67. We created a support. We had one pop off of it. We pushed up again. We tested it again. We pushed to the bottom. News came out that morning that there was a PT upgrade. Okay, and we ended up trading above that. And then the next day after the PT upgrade, we sold all the way to the bottom of that zone, and then we made a new low, right? And this is usually how they'll form exit liquidity, is through consolidations. It peaks its head above, there's PT upgrades, and then it breaks down. It just kind of depends on the time frame of it. AMD, I don't think is any different. It just went a little bit higher than what I thought. You guys remember the PT upgrades were all in this range here. PT upgrade, we see our highest volume. We see a shooting star kind of form. And then we are seeing continual bid sides, right? I haven't even talked about the dark pool aspect of this, but we are seeing bids being placed at 138, 141, and I think it's like 147. I can pull up TradeTix as well to give you guys like the aggregate and some of the levels, but yeah, I just think that this needs a little bit of time up here to continue to facilitate price to willing buyers at the highs, and then I think we'll gradually pull back down. And that's pretty much it, right? And then the week chart I wanted to show you guys. Let me just remove a couple things so we have some clarity. I'll remove that. I don't really care too much about that. 145 we definitely want to keep on hand. So we just take a look at this, and I'll keep the main price action here. Hopefully we don't get too confused. You guys can see, right, this was the distribution we spotted back here. This was the redistribution, the UTAD within the redistribution. We made a low, right? Then we pushed up, made a kind of a rejection off of this spot. But the reason that it's important is because we did find a low. We pushed up. We obviously pushed back into this old resistance here, but we tested a key spot, right? We tested a very, very key spot that absorbed it. It pulled down. We got our first higher low. We technically made a higher high, and then we broke down again for new lows. Now we're technically pushing right back up to this old spot here where we made our first kind of like test against this major redistribution zone. There was a big spot here, right? So if we take a look, ton of consolidation. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of consolidation, with this being our general low. Once again, as we distributed, we came through, we pushed back up for the redistribution, and how many weeks did we have of consistent sideways trading action occur here? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 breakout, LPSY or the UTAD, however you kind of want to view this within the redistribution. We break down, we make a new low, we push up, we retest this major area of consolidation from not only here but here. We test it one time, push down, higher low, we push through this again, we kind of test into this gap of around 177 to 169, and then ultimately make a new low, right? And then now we're starting to trend up, obviously, but this is our first test of a very, very key spot. Very, very key spot. And I've had this marked on the chart for a while. There's a reason I came up with 162. And I think a lot of people that are short-sighted, as I mentioned, are looking at this gap at 166. And to be fair, it makes sense, right? We know a lot of these charts have been trading to the gaps, but there's just so much price action, right? If we kind of zoom back, we can easily see the consolidations I was talking about. First one here, redistribution one here. This was the UTAD within the redistribution. We retested it here, higher low, right? You guys can see pushed into the gap, baited buyers into the gap, and then distributed even further down, made a new low, reaccumulated. I could see this maybe pulling down for a big reaccumulation campaign. I would consider this this is an accumulation, right? These usually occur in events, and eventually once they exhaust, they'll pull down, and then we'll get like a big reaccumulation that occurs here. Think about like MU. MU is a prime example of this, where you just got a major reaccumulation and then it started to rally. I could see AMD doing the same exact thing, and definitely baiting this gap. And you have to think this whole range here, and I'll just draw this real quick. We'll just pull this out to, I don't know, July 2026. Right, this whole gray area is a gap, and a lot of people are super bullish in gaps, guys. People love trading breakouts, people love trading gap trades, and I would say they very rarely work. People don't really backtest them, but when they work, people get super euphoric and trying to find breakouts and looking for breakouts. And a lot of mid caps are breaking out, a lot of small caps are breaking out. We're seeing Bitcoin breakout, we're seeing Ethereum breakout, we're seeing a lot of weird. And it's weird because there isn't a lot of liquidity in the market. We haven't gotten like a new injection of liquidity. This is still the same liquidity that's been circulating, or what's left of it, until we do see the Fed pause interest rates and we see an injection of fresh liquidity from the Treasury. We have to also think about the yen carry trade that's still happening. If you guys haven't been paying attention to the yen, right, and that relation or that chart, you can just go look at USD and the yen. It's very weird what's happening. It does feel a little euphoric, and it also feels a lot like 2021 going into 2022. I still think that this all plays out by August, maybe a little bit earlier, but I think August is the sweet spot. And I think we can capture something a little bit earlier, right? So with this AMD position, as I said, still keeping my stops right around 162. I've already kind of seen the max amount I would lose on that. If it does break 162, it's right around like 47%. So not the worst loss, but definitely don't want to take that. You know, it does suck. It will sting a little bit. But if we can break down under 153, like I said, get some comfortable adds in there, try to get my cost basis right in that general realm. This would be perfect. I think we can get a nice move down into 145. And then from 145, I'll evaluate whether I trim half. It depends on the percent that I'm up. I might even just wait and see if there is a low bounce that occurs. Maybe we gap under this, or it just depends on the daily time frame, right, or in the hourly. And then from there, ideally a breakdown would be super nice. If we break under 141, I would expect some kind of bounce off of it, or if it breaks under, or a retest of it at the very least. And then I move to 138, right? And then from 138, reevaluate, see if there's some kind of a reaccumulation that occurs there. I'll probably start buying shares, if I'm being completely honest. This would be a really quick flip if we can kind of hold that. But that's really it, right? That's it. That's probably the main one that I'm watching as of right now. And then as usual, right, we can take a look at SPY. SPY hasn't really changed for me. Same exact thing. I just think that this is kind of a blow off top, if I'm being completely honest. I've been saying that for a little bit now, And we've seen signs. I've mentioned multiple times this is very, very similar to 2018 and going into 2019 with the same topping process. Um, the blow off top there wasn't as extreme, but I've talked about this. I can see 100% of pullback down to this 579 spot and then 564. So from peak, which I think could be here at like 629, down to wherever I think it can go. It's 10% move. I think we can easily achieve a 10% move, but you have to think I'm not just blindly adding into the highs up here, especially with already having exposure. What I'm waiting for is a breakdown, which I honestly thought would be this day, guys. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty upset that it didn't occur on 7/15. This is the exact day that I was looking for, and it happened on higher volume, and I was going to add into that. But kind of shitty that at 7/16 it pulled back down. I think this was the day that he said he was going to get rid of Powell, and then he said never mind. I don't know if those are really change or manipulating the market to be doing what he wants, or if it's all kind of just an opportunity for them to be using headlines under the guise of what's really happening, which is, I don't know, it's all really weird. That's why I haven't been adding, but really I just want to see this break underneath this high here. Same thing applies. Break under 613, probably get a bounce off of that, retest 613, and if we don't see any buyers push it back above 613 and it starts to fizzle out right around here, that is the add. And then we're looking for a move down into 600, probably a bounce off of that, right? And then from there, let's get rid of this here. We don't really care about the distribution schematic. We should all understand it at this point. From here, we'd be then looking for a lower high off of 604. Okay, this should act as resistance now within this old gap. Then from 604, we're looking for a break underneath 596. You guys should all know that 596 was a pretty key level. Or was it 596? I don't even remember anymore. What the heck am I doing? Was it 596, guys? I have no idea. I know this was a key high here, so like 594, but I don't remember if that was a key spot. I genuinely think it was here, like 591 or I don't remember what the level was. This area is a little murky. So technically it could be we're still looking for a break under 600 for sure, but I don't know if it'd be a move down into this old high at like 591. Technically, okay, remember we talked about the NWOG, it's technically 586. So I just don't know if we'd get that deep of a move down that quickly, right? We hit off 604 and we break down. This area is murky. Okay, we have, like I said, we have kind of a small support here because this was a high that got tested into and swept under one time, two times, three times. But this was the initial spot, right around 586. So we could just go straight down to 586. And then bounce off of this once again. We have to expect some kind of lower high off of this. And then from there, move down into 580, probably retest 586, and then we're looking for a big flush down to 564. That's still the pathway I see happening, but just to rewind things and keep it super simple, okay, I'm just waiting for this here. Waiting for the break under 613.23. This has always been the move, has always been the play. Yes, I have size on early, but it's okay. I have until January. You guys should know, man, with like accumulations and distributions and how many times I've done this. And I've obviously struggled in the past with like adding too heavy too early. I've gotten much better at that. Just tranching into things, right? Just kind of slowly building in and having enough time. And these have till January. I think that this is fine. You just have to take your time. I told you guys I've been sleeping in the mornings. I've been going to the gym. I don't really have a lot of stress as of right now. And obviously, looking at my P&L on Friday, I was like, oh man, it's starting to add up because I was getting like $500 down every single day. I think on a couple days I hit like 1,000 that I was down. So I'm right around like 78 to like 82. But still, I mentioned I have plenty of cash on hand that can adjust and fix that cost basis that I have. And then if we start to get an unwind, right, these contracts will move very nicely with how much time we have on them, the amount of delta and gamma that I'll accumulate on them. And then you have to think with VIX being so low, okay, we're expecting some kind of a vol event. If we get some kind of vol event, guys, you got to realize you're buying a lot of these contracts with vol at the cheapest it is. Like this is absolutely cheap. I don't think I've seen, like I haven't seen it this low in a long time. I mean, back in like January, what year was this? Was this last year? It's not showing me. I think this is last year. Yeah, but we haven't seen it this low in a long time. And usually every time we come down this low, you guys can see we get a big spike up into like 27. Comes back down. We get a spike up into 21. We get a spike into 22. We got a big spike to 29. Then we got a huge spike to 61. You guys can see when vol is this compressed and it's artificially compressed, that you guys got to believe me. This is our artificial suppression. We'll see a big pop off of this, and your contracts will naturally gain a lot of value. Just depends on how high it goes, right? You're buying essentially contracts though on the contrarian trade side of things, with vol being its absolute lowest. So that would be really nice if we could get some kind of event that spikes vol. We start to see the contracts move in our favor, so we start to accumulate the delta, the gamma. Obviously, Vega will be a big portion of that as well, but then IV starts to trickle in as well. Those contracts will gain a lot of value. Just got to be patient, as I said. So that's really it. Hate to say it, the 5 contracts of NVIDIA that I took, I think that will be a total loss. I'm already down quite a bit on them, but like I said, I never took too much size with them. I took 5. It's just this chart is really murky now. I don't even know if I want to add into this one. If we are going to break back under, say, 152, I don't even know if that's realistic by August 15th, right? We'd have to move about 11%. So I think those contracts are kind of just donezo. I'm just going to hold them. But that was whatever. And then I don't know if I mentioned in this clip I did in one that I deleted earlier, Roku was pretty nice. Pretty simple progression gap move here where we just kind of reclaimed 86.8. A lot of consolidation off of it. We kind of bounced around. We got pretty tight here. I saw an inside bar at the highs and I kind of just took it. Nothing super crazy. This is also a chart that I've been watching for a really long time, if you guys remember. Down here, I was watching this for a long time. I think I was one of the first people to be watching for this accumulation. This was a big trade. I wish it showed the date. Yeah, early 2024. We caught this in the Discord a while ago. But yeah, big move here. Obviously pulled down. We still kind of maintained well against the lows, and then we just been trickling up. And I noticed that we took out these highs here, where there was an unfilled gap, and pretty much it. I think this can continue to go up to like 99, but on Friday, trimmed 9 out of 10. So took profits on that one. Pretty simple. Moved up a little bit in here in after hours, but nothing too much going on with that one. So I think that's really everything. I don't know if I have much else to cover. There's a couple names I will say. This one name that I want to keep on watch is XYZ, which is Block. If you guys didn't know, they got included into the S&P 500 on Friday. Pretty simple move here where we have this gap fill. Okay, it's one little chart that I want to show. And what I want is I want people to be super bullish on this on the at the open on Monday, chasing the news. And what we're looking for is exit liquidity and high volume off the open that's maintained, for the first 15 minutes to an hour. And we're looking for a move up, and maybe even like a little bit, like let's say it opens like right here, okay, which I think it's opening at like 79. We want to see it maybe open up and then rally a little bit more, right? Kind of bring everybody in and then start to fade and then get some high volume as it's fading. And then ultimately, we want the selling pressure to subside right around 74.97. And this would be a beautiful retest of the gap. See if buyers hold the gap. And if they do, then we can just look for an accumulation or some kind of early entry point and then look for a trend change and then it start to kind of break back out, right? And then we're looking for a completion up at 83. This is just a share play. This wouldn't be a bad share play. I mean, it's 11%, so you can definitely take lower risk on this. But just something that I'm watching is just open, maybe go a little bit higher, pull bulls in, and then a pullback to 74.97, and then it holds 74.97. And maybe even an undercut, maybe it pulls back down into like 72.82. That's still a healthy chart in my opinion, where this just pulls down a little bit lower, and then it pushes up, reclaims the gap, and does the same exact thing as here, okay? That's it. That's all I got. Nothing super crazy. Just like I said, man. And you guys gotta remember, like, your system's not always designed to make money in every single cycle or every single day for the most part. I talk about this as being like a casino. You have to have a lot of edge and a lot of patience in knowing when your edge is present. You guys remember we caught, Q1, the sell-off in Q1, which a lot of people weren't expecting and a lot of people were panicking about, and nobody really knew what to do, and a lot of people were trying to catch it off of moving averages and things like that. And then after that, we had that dramatic sell-off. You guys know we were already one of the first people to be watching for the April long, right? So the April long we were waiting for, I caught, like, you guys already know the story. I caught the bottom, I caught the higher low, and then I choked the higher low, and I thought I would go, you guys already know the story with that. And everybody was bearish at that time, right? We were one of the first bulls for that, and now we kind of missed this, I guess, like the euphoric breakout, where I feel like I've been pretty disciplined in not trading it, even though it's been hard. Other people's systems have been firing to be taking that when they weren't long, or their systems weren't firing for the April high or low. They weren't looking for the distribution back in Q1. So it's just little nuances where certain systems are working, certain aren't, and it doesn't mean you change. It doesn't mean that you adapt, especially when you have something that it does work or you feel comfortable with. Um, or something that that you can just control. A lot of people don't even think about the controllability of particular setups and things like that. They just chase things that look good, that will pay well. And believe me, there's so many things that could pay well, but you don't want to just jump into things because you don't know the risk, you don't know how the tape feels, you don't know. There's a lot of different variables that go into it. So, um, in my opinion, this is setting up exactly how, and from a sentiment perspective, from everything as it did in Q1. And if you guys even go look, man, like I can even just show you guys. Like I remember I was talking about how if Trump was elected, it was going to set up or Trump or Kamala, it didn't matter who, they were going to set up a distribution in Q4 going into Q1. I wish I can pull it up. Hold on. Ah, oh, it's because I spelled my name wrong. Come on, baby. Let me see if I can find this. Let me see if I can find this. I mean, if you guys remember this, like this is when I was tweeting about the lower low, right? Nobody was talking about this. If I even go to my posts, no, nobody was even. There was people that were talking shit to me. That's one right there. That's when I was calling for the bottom back in March to happen. Yeah, in that 561 area. Let's see. You guys remember Connor Bates was talking about SPX and saying how this was a bottom or this was going to go deeper. Oh God. Where is it, dude? Hmm. I'm trying to figure out what it was. Let's see. Oh, here it is. The reasoning was wrong. October. You could just see the distribution happening in Q1, right? Recession, I thought the recession would happen much earlier, but we are having things that are very similar to a recession, I will say that. A lot of the data is, let's see here. Oh, yeah. A lot of the inventory was collected under the Biden admin, right? Trump gets elected, what will they do with that supply? We obviously know that tariffs played a role in it, but price facilitation usually is under the guise of some kind of macro headline or some kind of catalyst. You can't just sell things. It doesn't work like that. So a lot of these names were pushed up. So just wanted to prove a point that I was talking about these things well in advance, like way before Q1, and then obviously the sell-off happened in Q1. Same exact things here is happening here. Euphoric highs, XRP, Bitcoin, like everything's going. It feels like everything's going crazy, but you're seeing some warning signs, and we've been talking about the data sets. We've been talking about a lot of different things, and then the charts are kind of showing them. So we are kind of getting a blow off tops scenario, where I still think that things will sell in Q3, Q4, and then potentially exacerbate into to Q1 of 2026. I still believe, and might be controversial, I still think that things are going to accelerate between Taiwan and China, and I still think that happens in like 2026, like mid 2026 or the fall of 2026. Something's going to happen, and then yeah, I think things are going to get weird, especially with the advancements that we're seeing, or accelerated advancements we're seeing with AI. I think the Taiwan's very important. So, anyways, I don't want to get too deep into that. That's its own thing. But yeah, this video has been going on for a long time. I think this is the longest like form content I've done in a long time. But that's pretty much it. Just AMD, SPY, and then if we can get the long setup, still really like XYZ. And then, oh yeah, there's one other one. It's QCOM. QCOM is still holding this level relatively clean. And I already did like a long post about this with this whole range here. Should look very familiar to you guys because we've seen it before. LRCX, same exact thing, right? Where it was starting in, I would say, this general range here. We developed a consolidation for a very long time. It undercut it here, and then it rallied, and then we got kind of like a jump the creek scenario or an SOS, LPS here, and then rally to highs. Beautiful chart on Lam Research. MU, no different. Same thing here. Undercut here. SOS, LPS, rally to target. Okay, now QCOM, basically the same thing. Consolidation, undercut, higher lows, and it finally just reclaimed this old consolidated low where the accumulation I think was going on, and it's just holding here. So this chart looks pretty dang good. I still want to get into this one. And the only thing is with this one, and you guys know I'm not like this, it does look like a bear flag. It's the only thing, which is why I'm more inclined to take shares and then be willing to add down into like 147. And then ideally this goes well beyond 181, right? You'd look for this to trade at the top of this range and take out the liquidity here, the sell side liquidity. So you'd be looking for a move up like that, maybe a high tight flag, or maybe if it gaps above a base on that level, okay? And then from there, you'd be looking for a move up into this spot here. So very similar to MU in that sense. So like 193. So if we can get like shares here, like just think about this from a shares perspective. This is almost a 30% gain with a stop loss that's sitting right around 4%, 5%. So the risk to reward on this is still magnificent. So I want to take shares on this one. I'm probably going to start that this week, just a heads up. And then, yeah, we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, I think that's all, guys. That's all I want to go over. This is a pretty long video, so that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoy, and just hang in there. We'll be all right. So, see you guys.